salmon of knowledge, it's a 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 salmon of knowledge podcast. Hey, salmon skins, welcome to another episode of Edwin Salmon of Knowledge. It's Christmas time. Christmas is the time of the man. Santa. When the Santa Claus is up in the pole. Santa. They think that Santa was a thing of the past. Santa. But Santa be the rendered at last. Every day the kids go round and they want to be sound. They want to be nice, not naughty. But the Santa comes around, gives them bags of coal, and then this accent is not good. Problematic. But Edwin the Salmon of Knowledge is cancelled. For doing appropriating accents from people that he's not. That is what's wrong with everything in the world. Cancelled. Like a TV show that you like to watch. But he's cancelled. But then it's niche, but no one has stopped. So, that was just me. Basically, I've got Bob Marley on the brain because I'm doing a recording in a couple of weeks for a Bob Marley episode. Not of my podcast, of those conspiracy guys. What has Bob Marley got to do with conspiracy? I hear you ask. I don't know. I guess I'll find out. I think there are some conspiracies around his death. As in, he played football and then he died of cancer. So, what's the link there? Footballs cause cancer? Foot cancer? I don't know. Actually, I haven't really looked into it that much. I remember when I was in school, there was this weird rumor goes around, and all these things kind of never get nipped in the bud or never get kind of, we didn't have Snopes back then. We didn't have the internet at our fingertips so we could check and see if these things were actually true or not. Like when someone used to say at the beginning of a weekend at a festival, they'd say something like, oh my God, Robert Redford died. I was trying to think of someone there, and back in the 90s, if Robert Redford went, everyone would be like, oh my God, we were loving him. Everyone was a big Robert Redford fan back in the 90s. If you didn't grow up in the 90s, then you didn't, River Runs Through It. Other things he did in the 90s. I can't actually remember anything that Robert Redford did in the 90s, apart from A River Runs Through It, where he had Brad Pitt basically play the role that he would have played, but he was just too old to play it. Which, hats off to Robert Redford for not going, yeah, I think I could pass as a 20-something-year-old or an early 30s man, even though I'm in my 50s or whatever the hell he was back then. But you could spread a rumor at a music festival because people were literally cut off from the outside world. Not like at a music festival now where you go to a tent and you can charge your phone. Well, first off, you didn't have to charge your phone because you would have phones that would last you for a week, maybe longer. The old Nokia 3310s. I know you called it Nokia. The old Nokia 3310, which was a potato-based Italian food that you could also make phone calls on, but you could only ring and order more pasta and Italian food. That was the catch with the Nokia 3310s. The Nokia 3310s, which contained probably the greatest ever game for passing the time, which was Snake. Of course, you control a snake on the screen with the certain cursor buttons, numbers, but like in an X. I don't know, you know how games work. Up, down, left, right, all that, etc. And you'd move the snake around eating little blocks, and it'd get longer, so then it'd become harder and harder. So eventually the snake would eat itself, just like snakes do in real life, in nature. And I didn't realize this is how kind of, I won't say dumb, because it's not dumb, it's just ignorance. I am ignorant. I was ignorant to the fact that there is a similar type of game on your phone now when there's no internet and you can't get any internet, and this little dinosaur shows up. And I just thought that was like, oh, the internet's gone. You're just like the dinosaurs who didn't have internet. But if you if you tap on that dinosaur, he starts running in this kind of side-scrolling thing, and you jump over a cacti, and then you jump over or don't jump when the pterodactyls come. And you know, the longer you go at it, the higher your score goes. You just have to not get hit. I didn't realize that was a game. I thought that was just a message saying no internet. Here's a dinosaur. Because, you know, that's, even though like when I was born there was no internet and there weren't any dinosaurs, they were long gone. It's just this whole thing of everything's so fresh and new. If you don't have it, then it must be because the dinosaurs are around. So I've had lots of fun when the internet's gone, or actually when the internet's around, and I just fancy a quick game of dinosaur jumps over the cacti, as I call it. So that explains whatever I was talking about. But I gotta say, guys, I hope you're having a nice Christmas. I had a weekend of Christmas work, which was supposed to be longer than a weekend, but it turned out that it was just a weekend. But it was fine because it was easy work. It was being a Zoom Santa Claus. Now, I can't reveal who I was Zooming for. I won't say the company, and I won't say any of the names of the children. But I will tell you some stories from that weekend. It was me and a number of other men, which is sometimes not the greatest beginning to a story. There was me and a bunch of other men. ... terrible things happened. But no, in this case, it was actually really nice. Unfortunately, because one of the corporate entities, so dehumanizing, one of the corporate entities from the planet capital I, they pulled out at the last minute, and they made up, quite a large amount of the calls were to be going to this corporate entity and their employees children. Think of the children, because that's what we were doing. So we were, we had them all lined up, and we had certain calls at certain times, and then occasionally we'd have a break, and then sometimes there would be like a half-hour break, sometimes it would be an hour. One time it was 2 hours. So we're doing it all weekend from a hotel. And I was lucky in that I already have a beard that I have been growing as a pandemic beard, basically. So I look like some kind of mountain man or some kind of just regular man in a long beard growing competition. So I was like leaving it, not trimming it, because normally I trim it, especially the mustache, because on the mustache on the top lip there, it's very long and starts to really impede on the lip, and sort of starts to slowly curl and grow and get into my mouth. And of course Cara doesn't like it, because if I kiss Cara, she's just kissing, it's like kissing a big hairy kiwi fruit, and that's not what she signed up for. Well, not during the week anyway. The weekends we can role play as various fruits. But look, I'm not going to get into that. That's personal stuff between me and my Cara. Me and my Cara at the weekend. We do things behind closed doors. You'll never know what it is. We're playing Monopoly, we're playing Risk, we're playing chess 'cause we like the Queen's Gambit. So obviously you're calling kids and you get a kind of, you get information. You get, you have the kind of insider information on the kids, where they go to school, what their teachers' names are, what they want for Christmas. And then sometimes like tiny little details, like they like sausages, but only Cumberland sausages from Aldi. It's like, very specific. And you can sort of throw these in and it blows their tiny little minds. And some of them are maybe too old. I had one who was, it was weird because, the call is scheduled. It's a scheduled Zoom call. And as Santa, you're in control of the Zoom call. And there was a 10-year-old girl who was extremely sporty and played loads of musical instruments. And all the information on her was like extremely, she just sounded very intelligent. And I was like, she's not going to fall for this Santa thing. And sure enough, when the call came through, she was just sitting there kind of bored. And then her mother came in and sat down beside her, and she had like a towel on her head, like she just gotten out of the shower. And all of these, Santa meetings and greetings are being recorded. So it's like you're on for like 7 or 8 minutes. It's kind of like a stand-up gig in that way. You do a tight 6, 7, 8 minutes, and then you get out of Dodge. But I was thinking, why does the mother have her hair in a towel? She knew this was going to be a meeting, and she knew she was going to be on camera. Could she not have dried her hair 10 minutes ago? Shame on you. And I said all this as Santa Claus. No, I didn't. But that was difficult because I could tell that this girl was like, what is this? This is crazy. I'm not a child. I almost felt like going, you don't believe in me, do you? Look, that's fine. It's okay not to believe. This is bullshit, isn't it? But it was, that was tough. But most of them were really nice and really fun, and the kids are really nice. And I had one kid who was just so chatty, and it was funny because he had like he was about 3 years old, and his brother was there, and I can't remember, was there a sister there as well? Well, there was definitely a brother there, older brother, and he'd be talking to me. Brother's about 8, and then the little guy would start just interrupting with just lies, just pure lies. So the 8-year-old would be going, yeah, I mean, I like school, and I have, my best friend is Jimmy. And then the young lad would go, talking about his brother, he'd just go, he was up on the roof and he jumped off, but it was okay because he landed on a trampoline. And the brother would just kind of turn and give him a quizzical look, and then he'd like look to me and go, I wasn't on the roof, and just be kind of laughing off his kind of lies. But like he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying on purpose. He was just lying to make conversation, which I guess is what 3-year-olds do. And I have a kind of, you get a kind of a patter down, and if you're getting towards the end and you want to kind of start to wind up, what I like to do is you'll ask a kind of, you'll ask a leading question where you'll go, all right, let's talk Christmas treats. What are your favorite things to eat at Christmas? I'll go first. I like mince pies with cream. And then so most kids haven't had mince pies. And when I was a child at Christmas time, I had mince pies. I didn't think that there was minced meat in them. But I did. I actually thought that mince pies were full of mince meat, because when you'd see them, on the cover on a box, they'd be open and this brown stuff is coming out, and I had no reason to believe that it was anything other than mincemeat, because why would they call them minced pies? Mince pies, minced pies. And because I just didn't have the concept, and I didn't have the life experience as a young boy to know that other things could be minced, like fruit and nuts could be minced just as well as meat, if not more so, and put them with spices, and you've got yourself a mince pie, sir. And put some cream on the side, and ooh, delicious, delicious. So I'd ask them that. Well, sometimes I'd ask them about Brussels sprouts, because I am not a fan of Brussels sprouts, but I would basically ask them, do they like Brussels sprouts? And if they say no, I'd go, yeah, me neither. And I'd want to say, they taste and smell like farts, but because I'm Santa Claus and I have to respect the uniform, I just say, yes, I don't like them. Mrs. Claus makes me eat them every year. And then I look around as if Mrs. Claus is in the next room making some gingerbread. And then I start talking about how much I love gingerbread, and also how much I love carrots, and how it's important to eat your vegetables. You got to get the positive message out to the kids. And if they're going to listen to anyone, they're going to listen to Santa Claus, a morbidly obese, immortal, gift-giving man that lives in the North Pole and has far more influence over them than their own parents. Because that's my job. Power and influence, and I rule through fear. And the fear is not getting things for Christmas. It's a tiny break in the podcast. It's a tiny little break in the podcast, and we will be back to regular programming now. So then I talk about the Christmas dinner, and I always say, I'm going to have a goose, because there are lots of geese running around in the North Pole, and they don't know. I mean, the kids don't know. They assume that that's exotic, and they take my word for it because they've believed me up to that point. But they have no knowledge of, they're only children. They have very limited knowledge of the flora and fauna in the North Pole. So, unless some TikTok user is going to tell them all about it while doing a dance, they're never going to find out. They're not going to look that stuff up on Wikipedia. No, kids love that Wikipedia, but I think TikTok has become the new Wikipedia. People can only learn about complex political issues while someone is delivering a makeup tutorial. And that sounds like a joke, but that's actually what happens. And while I was talking to this 3-year-old and his brother, the 3-year-old who kept interrupting, and it was just so funny because he'd start talking, and the way everyone was in the frame, like his parents were there kind of on the edge of the frame, and his brother on the right hand side, and they'd all just kind of stop and turn and look. So we're all just like watching this 3-year-old just go off on rants. But he gave me the best answer, because like when you ask kids, what are you going to leave me out for? They always say carrots. One mother who I think was just working for big oats, she had big oats in her pockets. Not literally, but she was shilling for them, because she said, oats are very good for you. And I was like, ooh, porridge, yes. It tastes like hot snot. I actually like porridge now. I like porridge now. So there's a bit of hot. That's my hot take. Porridge, it's nice. Often maligned, but I feel it's nice. It looks like horse snot, but it tastes like horse food. But for champion horses, porridge. Sponsors, Edwin Salmon of Knowledge. No, porridge does not sponsor this podcast. But yeah, she said she'd leave some oats out for the reindeer, which I thought was boringly realistic. And I told her that as Santa Claus, and told her to get the fuck out of this Zoom call, and she did, because I have all the power and all the influence. But they'll always leave carrots for Rudolph, And then usually they'll say they're going to leave cookies for me or cake, Christmas cake, which I don't like. But I said, I might just eat all the icing and leave it there. And they laugh away. And I'm like, what, did I say something? Did I say something funny? What? Am I a Santa Claus here to amuse you? Tell me, little Timmy, what the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me, because I really want to know. And I get really intimidated and start crying. But this 3-year-old, when I asked him, what are you going to leave Santa out, as a treat to eat? And without hesitation, straight away, he just said, beans on toast. And we all laughed. It was a lovely moment. And actually, if you think about it, that is a fantastic thing to leave out, because high energy food, beans, it's like a meal in itself. It's a warm meal, because everyone's just leaving out, milk. And sometimes they say they're going to leave warm milk. And I always think in my head, well, it'll be cold by the time I get there. So, you leave out boiling hot milk so that by the time Santa arrives, it will have cooled down to a suitable temperature that I may dunk biscuits in it. Or cookies, as I kept calling them, in the Americanization of the language of the world. English. English being the language of the world, when in fact more people probably speak Mandarin Chinese at this point. What a lovely world we live in, with so many languages. I don't have time to learn them, and my brain's too old and full of jizz, but not sexual jizz, just jizz about the Star Wars movies and other jizz. When I say jizz, I mean useless information. That's what I call jizz, so don't misunderstand me when I'm talking about information, useless information. I just call it jizz. And sorry about that. And it was a nice weekend. It was good crack. And when I came back and I had all the white paint, it's basically spray paint, and it just makes my beard all kind of hard, obviously all very white. And Cara was joking, saying, now I know what you're going to look like when you're 60 years old. I was like, well, I hope so, if I just get grayer and don't get any more wrinkles or anything. I doubt that'll happen, but yeah, okay, fair enough. And I was like tired, and I was like, I guess I should wash my beard out, wash all this white spray out of my beard. And Cara was like, just leave it till the morning, it's fine, it's not going to go anywhere. I said, no, it probably won't get all over the place. Anyway, we were sleeping on sleeping in a white bed with white sheets and pillowcases. A pure white bed. So even if it came off, you probably wouldn't notice. We'd eventually wash the sheets. I'm overthinking this and over-talking this. So I went to sleep. I got up the next morning, went in and had a shower. I was like shampooing my beard and washed it all out, and then gave it another bit of a shampoo. And then I looked in the tiny little mirror, one of those like round mirrors that has normal mirror on one side and then 3 times the size mirror on the back, if you want to really have a look in your pores and make sure that there's no transients living in there, and which often happens when your pores are nice and clean. Immediately a tiny Sylvanian family will move in, and you just have to end up evicting a whole load of Victorian mice at Christmas time, and that's just depressing for everyone involved. No one comes off good when that happens. But I looked in the mirror to check all the white was gone, and I was like, there's still a bit left. And then I realized, oh no, there isn't. I'm just grey. So just for a split second, for a fleeting moment, I thought I was younger than I was before, but I'm not that young. I'm getting old and getting grey. Listen to the things I say. So, guys, I have been talking to Gerry, who, as you will know, is a long-time father of mine. He's been a father of mine for all of my life. He was there at the very beginning. He's still there. And I was talking about how I'd given up smoking and, to help the cravings, although I don't do it as much now. I chew gum now, I think, because it's probably better for me than sucking on a mint. Because they say if you have a craving, you just give it like 10 minutes and you let a dog bark in the background. And then you let the master of the dog give out to the dog. And you just let that continue on for, like 20 seconds. And eventually the craving for nicotine subsides. Now, I did have some like nicotine mints, but as I've mentioned before in the podcast, I didn't want to replace nicotine with the drug of nicotine, because you're just doing like for like. It's like, I won't inject heroin, but I'll just smoke it from tin foil. And that way it's not as bad for me. Or I'll suck on some heroin mints, which I don't know if they exist. They probably do. But anyway, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be sucking on a nicotine mint. I did it a few times and it was grand. But I was getting silver mints and all that sort of stuff. And I was talking to my dad and he said, you want to be careful because you might get mint heart. And I said, excuse me, a baking powder? And he said, that's a very old reference to Wayne's World. And I said, wow, you picked up on that? And he said, yeah, I'm pretty sharp for an old man. And I said, hey, come on, you're only as old as... And then I remembered his age. I went, all right, guys, you're pretty old. But there are people older, but not many. So he said, yeah, be careful you don't get mint heart. And I was like, what the hell is mint heart? And, because my dad doesn't really, he's not online, so it wouldn't be like some kind of splinter conspiracy theory group that, believes the government is trying to kill everyone by making them get weak hearts from sucking mints. But apparently if you suck on mints, it makes your heart all cold and susceptible to heart attacks or something like that. He honestly didn't give me a proper answer. So I looked up, is eating a lot of mints bad? And I just typed that into Google. And then a couple of sites said, first one, it would really depend on what you mean by a lot. Most foods are okay in moderation, but if a little is good, more is not necessarily better. Most commercially produced breath mints are loaded with bacteria-fueling sugar and may actually harm oral health in the long run. The occasional sugary mint here or there won't do much harm. Which, for me, I'm like, all right, okay, so I'm damaging my teeth more so than my heart here. So then I found an article that said, because one of the questions was, can you die from overdosing on mints? And now this is not mints per se. I mean, it's mints, but they're caffeine mints. So there's these kind of energy sweets, basically. So they're not really they're not for bad breath. They've got like a hit of caffeine. So it's an article from 2013. So here is what I'm going to call the silly news section. Silly news all the time. 2020 has bad news, but I give you silly news. So, here is the silly news. A man died from an enormous caffeine overdose after snacking on high-energy mints, each of which is as powerful as a can of Red Bull. John Jackson, JJ, as I'm calling him, 40, ate Hero Instant Energy mints, unaware they could kill him. I mean, was there a warning that they could kill him? Each mint contains 80 milligrams, not megagrams. Of course, megagrams would absolutely kill you. 80 milligrams each mint of caffeine, equivalent to a can of Red Bull. So basically, you're drinking a can of Red Bull by having one mint, but are sold alongside normal mints. So they're hiding in the normal mints, these dangerous mints, in amongst the ordinary commoner garden wouldn't harm a fly mints. Coroner Robin Balmain. I really couldn't do the news properly if I was a newscaster, because I just said coroner instead of coroner. Recorded a verdict of accidental death, but said he intends to write to the Department of Health highlighting the dangers of energy sweets, or at least send a strongly worded email. He said at the hearing, "It seems to me to be something the authorities need to know about. It is up to them to take any action. This is potentially a dangerous situation. I am as certain as I can be that Mr. Jackson did not know he was exposing himself to danger." Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair to say. If you are sucking on mints, the last thing you're going to be thinking is, these mints are a danger to my life. So, according to a pathologist whose name I can't pronounce, 79 milligrams of caffeine has been known to cause death, and that a post-mortem revealed Mr. Jackson had 155 milligrams in his system when he died. Mr. Jackson was a heavy drinker and had cirrhosis of the liver, which would have limited his liver's ability to process toxins, but it was the caffeine overdose that killed him, the pathologist said. She told the hearing, "To my surprise, the immediate cause of death, was not cirrhosis. Cirrhosis? Cirrhosis? I don't know how you pronounce that. And I've no way of finding out unless I Google it. And I'm not going to. I'm just going to plough through. If I was a newsreader, I would absolutely be fired by now if this is my first story. I'll go back and read that sentence again. To my surprise, the immediate cause of death was not cirrhosis, but through caffeine overdose. The post-mortem showed other drug traces, but not enough for the final outcome. There you go. There's the ambulance come and take him away. I am sure this is the first time in my experience we have come across what was literally a caffeine overdose. It was confirmed by experts in this field. The amount found was really excessive and entirely in keeping with death due to excess caffeine in the blood. If the liver was not functioning properly, that would contribute to the final outcome. So because his liver was not processing toxins, that didn't help. But he had way too much caffeine in his system. Mr. Jackson, a former painter and decorator and a live man, bought a £4 tin of 12 sweets from his local shop. He was found dead in his flat by his former partner near Birmingham on 2nd of May this year. His stepdaughter called for the product to be banned after the coroner criticised this manufacturer. She said, "On the box it said 1 tablet equals 1 can of energy drink. It's unbelievable. The class in the same place as Paolo's and extra strong mints. I'm scared to drink coffee now." Well, don't be scared to drink coffee as long as you have a functioning liver and you don't drink, 155 cups of coffee in a row. At some point you'd probably shit your pants and that would probably put an end to it. Birkenhead-based Hero Energy said that it highlighted the risk with prominent warnings on packaging and shelves. In a statement, directors Paul Hayes and Steve Hone said they fully understand the dangers and risks of caffeine and that the packs advise no more than 5 be consumed in 24 hours. The inquest was not told how many Mr. Jackson ate, but the manufacturer said he would have had to have eaten, quote, over 300 of our mints, which is staggering, end quote, to have the levels of caffeine he had in his blood. Now, that is staggering. Do we know that this man... Now, he died in 2013, and as far as I know, this seems to be the only case that has come up anyway on Google of someone literally dying from a caffeine overdose. So it's not mint heart. Mint heart, still can't find anything about mint heart, Gerry. It is mints. Yeah, technically mints. That's the headline. But if you delve deeper into it, if you just get past the clickbait helpline headline, it's not a help. In fact, it's misleading. It's a misleading line. If you get past the misleading log line and get into the meat and potatoes of the story, it's not about mints. It's about caffeine and the dangers of caffeine. So now, a funny story to wrap up this news section. This is an old story as well. This article is more than 2 months old, and it's about Extinction Rebellion. You know those guys, those great guys that are trying to stop the mass extinction that is happening around the world with animals and eventually us. Now, sometimes they do things that turn everyone against them, like when they attacked the London Underground because they thought that people were trying to climb inside a big snake and kill it, and they got a bit confused. But no, they stopped the Underground from happening and stopped people from using what is a much more environmentally friendly mode of transport than buses or cars or whatever. And that was a little bit short-sighted and a little bit stupid, if I'm being honest. I mean, I like what they do. I agree with what they do. But their methods sometimes leave a lot to be desired. But this was an article. Headline is, Extinction Rebellion Go Floppy When Arrested, complains senior Met officer. Here's the article. One of Britain's most senior police officers has launched an angry tirade against Extinction Rebellion protesters going, quote, all floppy when they get arrested. Sir Stephen House, cousin of Sir John Apartment, the Deputy Commissioner of the Metropolitan, and now I'm reading it as Metropolitan. Can you get dyslexic later in life? Metropolitan is the word I'm looking for. Not Neapolitan, that's many flavoured police officers. Okay, I'll keep going. As I've said before, I've already lost my job as a fake newsreader. So Sir Stephen House, Mind Your House, the Deputy Commissioner of the... I've done it again. I just say police, okay? The policeman said, the tactic of going limp was a, quote, flipping nuisance, as it required extra officers to drag protesters away. House told a London Assembly Police and Crime Committee hearing, we have asked them to stop being floppy, and that might seem like a silly thing to say, but when we arrest them and pick them up, they go all floppy, which is why you see 4 or 5 officers carrying them away. It's a complete waste of officers' time and a complete pain in the neck. House also expressed annoyance at how the tactic made the police look heavy-handed. He said, the problem with them going floppy and 4 officers carrying them away is that it looks to the general public like police are overacting here. We're not making them go floppy, they're just sort of being a nuisance. House said that the matter was a real issue for policing demonstrations by Extinction Rebellion, which has organised a series of protests across the UK, not against the UK, across the UK to highlight the climate emergency, including a blockade this month of printing distribution centres used by right-leaning newspapers. A spokeswoman for Extinction Rebellion confirmed that its protesters were encouraged and trained to go limp when being arrested. They have limp training. She said, it's part of our non-cooperation tactics. It is totally peaceful, she said, probably not in that accent. The tactic is used by many of the older protesters who have joined the demonstration. Speaking after being arrested at an Extinction Rebellion sit-in in Parliament Square last year, Brian Raven, 77, a retired English teacher, said, 4 officers organised themselves to carry me. I was totally limp. So he didn't become aroused at all by that interaction with the officers in uniform. House said, "If they could just behave like sensible adults, it is a flipping nuisance. And I think the majority of the public would look at that and go, for goodness sake, you've made your point. You've been arrested. The police are treating you perfectly fairly. Just get on with it." Extinction Rebellion held 10 days of protests in central London at the start of September, with the latest figures from the Met showing that 680 people had been arrested. It's a lot of arrests. These are for alleged offences, including obstructing the highway, criminal damage, and breaching the legal conditions set on the demonstration. So they're basically doing what the animals would do if they could, be trained to go floppy. So floppy training, if you've ever wanted to train how to go limp, how to go floppy. And also they say that you should do that if you, fall down the stairs, because people try and brace themselves and end up, shattering their wrists or arms or shoulders. So if you go floppy, and just make sure you don't land on your head, try land on your side or on your bum, because that's where the most cushioning is. This has been the Ed Salmon News. City news all the time. Guys, that's the end of the episode, and I'd like to thank you for listening. I would like to apologise because I've been promising space notes for the last while, but I will make it up to you. I will promise to have an entire space notes episode before Christmas. It might come out as a regular episode of the podcast. It might be an extra episode of the podcast. I keep putting it off, but then I keep increasing the length of it. I'm like James Cameron making Avatar movies. I keep going, no, listen, I'll have another Avatar out soon enough, and then it's been delayed, and now I'm like, I'll have 4 Avatars out. I'll have 5 Avatars out. 5. An Avatar for every member of the family. An Avatar for everyone in the audience. So, guys, thanks very much for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, 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 bye. I have to say goodbye. Salmon of knowledge, it's a 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 salmon of knowledge podcast.